Hello, Dancers listeners. You are about to listen to another episode of Dancers. What a stupid way to start. I'm going to punish myself by leaving that in. Hello, Dancers listeners. You're about to listen to. Jesus Christ. Anyway, I have some things to promote before the start of the episode. Please don't skip this. Please don't skip this. First of all, I am performing live stand-up comedy in Michigan, okay? So, January, February, March, April, May, June, that's how I have to do the months. I'm sorry. June 15th, I'll be in Detroit. June 16th, I will be in Lansing. And June 17th, I will be in Grand Rapids. You can get all of those tickets in my link tree, and I will try to put it in the bio of this episode. And then just general things. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, please subscribe. All that really helps. And the best, the strongest, the most powerful listeners of all will subscribe to the Patreon. You get an extra episode every week. And I also throw up some extra stuff, and we'll continue to do so. But you get an extra episode every week. You get special access to asking questions. It's a beautiful little time. We get together, me and the patrons, it's online. Everything's online. None of us see or, God forbid, touch each other, but it's all online. We all, kind of philosophically snuggle up, and we get real cozy. I think I'm going to quit doing the podcast after No, I won't. The podcast soldier's on. Thank you for listening to the promotions. Enjoy the episode. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Dancers. I don't know why I started at such a calm tone there. But you know what? Let's keep it going. Hello. How are you feeling today? Do you feel well? How is your wellness? Wellness was a word created over 15 years ago, and it dictates whether or not you need to buy hundreds of dollars of supplements and comfort products. Let's start this episode. Let's start this episode. Let's get on the same frequency, okay? I want everyone to close their eyes, unless you're driving, in which case just close one eye. No, I'm kidding. Don't close any eyes. I'm going to stay in my calm tone. But don't close even a single eye. We're going to start this mindfully. I want you to picture you're in a field. You're in a meadow. The sun is shining softly on your skin. The rays don't have that normal level of intense UV that has been created through years and years of negligence of manufacturing in this country, and has led to several holes and a lack of barrier between us and those UV rays. I want you to picture those aren't there today. Those didn't show up today. Those aren't a part of our happy adventure today, okay? We're laying in a field that somehow Monsanto does not own, and also Monsanto chemicals and seeds have not made their way to and germinated and destroyed the natural occurring plants there. That hasn't happened either, because we're in our own little happy place where the world didn't happen to us, okay? I want you to picture you're breathing deep breaths of fresh air, not smog. For some reason, there's also no smog. And also, just so we're all in the same place, there's a bear sucking your toes. Okay? I want you to picture a happy little bear, and it's nothing sexual. If you think there's something sexual going on, maybe you have something wrong with you. Have you ever thought about that? Maybe over-sexualizing signs of affection are why you're in the state of being where you are now, where you're overdriven by carnal desire and can't feel the true connection of human pleasure. How are you, everyone? Welcome to the Danswers podcast. I am your host, Dan Donohue. This is going to be a very fun episode. We got a lot of questions. I'm excited to answer those questions. But first, I'm excited about something else. Oh, I'm giddy about something else. I'm sitting here right now telling all of you I passed my written driver's test. That's right, folks. We are 17 again. Or for me, it was 18 when I actually did that the first time, when I got my California license. And to get that, you have to redo the written exam. It was a breeze. It was a breeze. I only completely failed it one time. I felt real okay. First of all, so I did. I failed the test one time. Came back a couple hours later, passed it. You know how I do. I missed just one less than a failing grade. So literally by the skin of my teeth. The first time I failed it, I was super disappointed because I made a real at the DMV. Okay, let's back up. Enough has been said about the DMV's incompetence. Okay, I don't need to go there with you folks. You've heard enough about it. I think we should speak more about how the people who work at the DMV are also not all, the ones I was working with were good, but I heard a woman so power hungry on such a power trip. And I'm sure her job is hard and annoying. She's meeting people on some of their worst days. There was a soccer player behind me who had his ID stolen. He's playing soccer. I overheard the conversation. You can tell I'm such a little gnat on the wall. I'm just listening to all these people's things, but I don't like going on my phone. I like listening to the world that's surrounding me, which can, in a lot of ways, be much more terrible and terrifying than the things on Instagram. But this guy, he's playing soccer, so he's from out of the country, and he had everything stolen from him. I think his hotel room got broken into or something, so passport, ID, whatever American documents he had, everything stolen. He just has to deal with this poor woman who's just can't do anything for him and clearly doesn't feel great about that. But this woman was just barking at people. Can't fill that out. She spoke Spanish too. She was barking in Spanish. And some jobs just do that to you. It happens to chefs too. Some jobs just turn you into a Stanford prison experiment, but you do it 24/7, 365. And it's not good. It's tough. But, man, I got past that, and there was a woman that I was waiting in line to take the test, and we just made a little bit of a connection. She's older, and everybody there was looking completely down. So I decided, hey, let me show this person that I'm a human being and not cattle. So I look at her, and I'm like, hey, how's your day? And she was like, yeah, it's another day. And I was like, yeah, I'm getting my idea. She's like, oh, good for you. We made a little nice connection. And then I failed. And it felt like I didn't just fail the test. It felt like I failed her. It felt like I failed a new friend. So I went back. Okay, here's the issue. This is fresh in my mind because I just took the LA driver's test, right? The written part where you have to answer questions. The questions have nothing to do with driving in LA. The questions are things that you never have to deal with, like what to do at a yellow light, right? That shouldn't be on the test for driving in LA. The things that should be on the driving test for LA are there are two BMWs and they are both tailgating you no matter which lane you switch to. Which color BMW which driver in which color of BMW? No, wait, how do you word it? Which driver in which color of the BMW is more likely to beat you up, red or gold? Right? That's a good question. You're driving down the road, and there's a guy just standing in it. Do you ever roll down your window? No. The answer is no. Here's something I dealt with driving in LA. You were driving down the 101, and there was a guy, which is a freeway. So you're driving down the 101. There is a guy driving a bicycle the opposite way down the freeway towards you. How long will it take you to process that event in your own mind? The answer is 45 days. Those are the questions that should be on the driver's test in Los Angeles. So I don't know what all this who has right of way bullshit is, but that is not cutting it for LA driving. I think that is crazy. But I did their little test, right? Even though I've been driving here for 5 years, I know how it works. Okay? Is the Elote Man allowed to park his car in the street? Absolutely, and shut the fuck up and don't say anything to him, okay? buy something from him and shut up. Is the Elote Man allowed to ring the little bell on your road? Absolutely. I don't care if you're recording a podcast. Have the bell in the podcast and shut up, idiot. He's walked 55 miles today, okay? He gets to ring his little bell. Do you understand me? I made a video about that a little while ago, and some people were supportive, some people were not supportive. But the Elote Men it's a cart that sells like corn that is covered in, I think it's cheese. I don't ask. I put it in my mouth, okay? Disrespectful to ask. Disrespectful to ask what is in the food you get, okay? Not all food, but the Elote, I do feel, is just like, shut up and eat it. And man, when I passed the test the second time, which failing the first time kind of made it sweeter. Oh, when I passed, it felt like I had gotten my driver's license the first time. I had this feeling of such intense giddiness, such excitement. I was like, oh yeah, I'm about to be able to buy weed without calling my friend first now. Oh boy, I get to start designated driving all of my friends around because I'm too scared to drink alcohol. That's what it felt like. You know how cool you feel when you get your license the first time? Oh boy, I get to drive my girlfriend around. Oh wait, she broke up with me. You know how you feel when you first get your license? That pure joy. That pure giddy excitement. No, I'm happy. I'm happy to get a new driver's license picture. With the first one I got, I look like a Russian arms dealer. I really do. I look like a young Russian's arms dealer in my first driver's license picture. Maybe I'll put a picture of it up on the Patreon to show you all, but it's wild. I look absolutely wild on it. But yeah, that was my whole day today. I was really nervous. I was really scared. I finally got it. And you have to go through a lot at the DMV. There's people who just pass out at the DMV. That's how stressful it is. People are just passed out on the ground. You have to walk over them, and then you have to focus stuff. The test isn't hard, okay? The test isn't hard. What's hard is there's a dude who doesn't really speak English. He speaks Albanian, but he has it in his heart. He has it in his soul to still try and argue with the DMV people. And I have to say that's commendable. I do like that, okay? He speaks Albanian as his first language. English is like the way he was talking to this woman, he really didn't know how to make complete sentences, but he knew how to get his point across. And he was screaming at this woman who worked at the DMV, and she was screaming back. And she was doing that thing where when someone is speaking English, but they're not speaking complete sentences, you then yell in not complete sentences back to them. I don't know where that comes from or why that is. Some people think it's disrespectful. I try to not do that, but it certainly happens enough where it's definitely something people are compelled to do. So he's like computer broken. She's like, computer not broken. Like just trying to get the point across. But you have to pound through that. You have to hammer through that argument. You got to make it all the way. And I hope that Albanian man got his driver's license, and I hope to see him on the road. He will certainly be honking at me. I'll tell you that much. But that was great. The day before, this is another thing I wanted to talk about because we have a lot of questions to get to. But the day before, I did a radio interview for a college radio show. I'm doing a comedy festival in Bloomington, Indiana, which I'm very excited about, the Limestone Comedy Festival. Big festival. I'm so happy about it. It really is. It brings a lot of joy to me. And this person, they hit me up and they go, I would like to interview you for my college's radio station. I said, absolutely. So they sit me down, ask me a bunch of questions, and I think their premise, if I'm getting this correctly, their premise was, how does comedy relate to your identity and experiences? And great idea for a show, great premise. And they asked me a question that I would like to address. because it's a question that comes up sometimes. People have different perspectives on it. I don't think I made myself as articulate on the radio show as I would have liked to. The interviewer asked me, do you think comedians are modern-day philosophers? And I said, absolutely not. I said, absolutely not. And I stand by the answer. But the answer because people, especially comedy fans, a lot of the times will push back on that. They'll go, no, comedy is very important to me. They'll go, comedy has given me. I grew up with stand-up comedy. I love stand-up comedy more than I would say most stand-up comedians I have encountered. In that I don't hate it, which most stand-up comedians who do stand-up comedy do, which puts me on the upper echelon of people who like stand-up comedy, because I don't actively hate doing it. So when I answer this question, it's not to disparage stand-up comedy. I think stand-up comedy is wonderful. I love it. It's a beautiful thing to watch. I would even call it, in some regards, an art form. In other regards, craft, right? Let me just preface it by saying that before going into this. I think the idea that stand-up comics are quote-unquote modern-day philosophers, especially when stand-up comedians espouse it, is maybe a little bit of a reach, okay? Maybe you could say it in the way like, oh, all musicians are philosophers, all plumbers are philosophers. Like, sure, everybody, but no. There are already philosophers. Philosophers are philosophers. Comedians are comedians. Being a comedian is a great thing. You don't also have to be a philosopher. Now, where the line gets blurry and where people have the misunderstanding is stand-up comedy requires you to make premises for your jokes, right? You have to have premises. And premises sometimes need to be based on human events and experiences. There are certain comics that do border on making or do straight up make exciting new observations on the human experience, right? That's cool, but that's not all comedians. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I think when comedians have the pressure to be incredibly important and to make big, broad statements of you can get a little up your own ass, okay? You can get a little. The stand-up comedy is made to be funny. It's supposed to be funny. Can it also be intelligent? Yes, but it can also be stupid, okay? I reserve the right to laugh at stupid, dumb things, and I don't think there needs to be a philosophical. You can add philosophy to it. I'll even go as far as to say that if you listen to a stand-up comedian and you gain something deep from what they did, that's great. In the same way, if you listen to Blink-182 and you get some deep internal human meaning from Blink-182, God bless you. God bless you, okay? Good for you. You've ingested art in sort of the perfect way, where not only do you enjoy it, you get something out of it. But I just take a little bit of umbrage, if I can use the word umbrage, and I don't mean to use giant words, huge words like umbrage around you, the words of the most intelligent group of people in the world, 1800s prospectors, right? I take umbrage with this idea that comedy needs to be important, right? I think it's important for there to be people being funny. I think it's like, to me, I'm not talking about for the world in general. I love comedy. I'm glad people try to do comedy, all that stuff. But it just is a little highfalutin to be like comedians are philosophers. It's like, no, some comedians are just dumb. Some comedians are really smart. Some comedians are really dumb. It takes all kinds, right? In the same way, not all movies need to be introspective, intelligent. Sometimes I want to watch Fast and Furious, okay? That doesn't make me a bad person. Sometimes I want to watch Fast and Furious. Do you understand me? I don't need it to be bigger than that. I don't need there to be a giant philosophical. No, I want to watch The Rock be muscly and maybe run around a little bit. Does that make me a bad person? Then put me on a list. Okay? Put me on a list. Anyway, we have a bunch of questions that I wanted to get to, and I'm very excited to get to them. These were all emailed. If you want to ask a question, you can email me at danswerspodcast@gmail.com. Here's the first question. Hey, Dan, love the podcast. You're the best. Do you understand me? I love it when you start emails like that. Genuinely. And I hate being genuine, but that's the truth. I've discovered it recently, and I've been binging it. Thank you so much. I'm a receptionist at a pediatric dental office, and most of the time, it's fucking awful. I spend a lot of time thinking, I wish I was a social media influencer, or I wish I was a comedian and had so much freedom on how to live my life, because currently I feel all my free time is spent doing human things like making dinner and cleaning so I can prepare to go to work the next day. My question is, as someone whose lifestyle I yearn for, do you ever have a moment where you think, I wish I could work a normal 40-hour week job instead of waiting for chips to land? Thank you. Deep question. Wow. Deep question. I'm going to answer it in two parts. Professional stand-up comedy, which I'm not making all of my money from right now, by the way. I still do personal training on the side to make my whole nut for the month. But, you know, getting closer and closer to it, so I'll feel your question. Do I ever yearn for a 40? No. I'm going to be fully honest with you. No. I've worked those jobs before, and while I was working them, I was like, this is horrible, and I hated it. Now, the level of like work that it takes and time and all that, unless you really get lucky, is crazy for, you know, to do stand-up comedy or to be a social media influencer, XYZ, especially now that it's such a saturated market. There's you can always find your niche, you can always find your place, but it takes something. Now, let me use dog influencers as an example. Let's say you, person who asked this question, have the world's cutest dog. You have, oh my God, it's the sweetest little thing. It's a little ball of joy. And you go, you know what? My dog is so cute. It deserves what? Its own social media page. A lot of people choose to do this. And that's fine. And if you're doing it as a hobby, that's probably even better. But let's say you want to do it and you want to run that page and have it be your income. Some people have pets that are so popular online, it is their income, okay? On the other end of that, do you know what there is? You following your dog around with a camera all day, waiting for it to do something cute. Your dog is now not only your dog. It has become something different. It has become a money-generating proposition. Okay? Takes a little bit of the joy out of it, doesn't it? Takes a little bit of the sweetness out of it, doesn't it? Now, I guess with stand-up, I'm lucky because the bigger the stages you get to do, usually the more money you make from them. And the bigger the stages, obviously, the more exciting. So that's really nice, too. I'm glad that I have a lot of irons and a lot of fires in terms of making money. But you got to think about that puppy. You always have to think about that puppy, right? Do you want to make your... And I'm using this as your puppy could be painting. Your puppy could be acrobatics. Takes a little bit of the joy out of it. When I make videos, sometimes I don't, like whatever. And it's way easier than a regular job, I'll tell you that much. But, there's a little joy that comes from having things that you're not monetizing. I'll just say that. And I am incredibly lucky to have kind of found a niche to do it. And I think if you are experiencing true disdain for your living situation, for your circumstances, no one's stopping you from trying it out. I certainly would. I am in no. A lot of people who do stand up or social media will often go like, "Oh, like don't even try to do it. It sucks so bad." And it's like, no. Who am I to say that? I'm doing it, right? I'll say this. Just make sure you really, really like doing whatever you lock yourself into doing in terms of like influencer stuff or comedy or whatever. Because if you're just doing it out of I want to be financially stable, it's not the get into Ponzi schemes. Have you heard of Herbalife before? I'm not saying join Herbalife. Don't do that. Do not do that. I'm saying come up with your own Herbalife, okay? Be the MLM you want to see in the world, okay? No, I'm kidding, honestly, but obviously. But yeah, I hope that wasn't too convoluted of a question, but I think it's always like a grass is always greener thing, although I will say I never yearned for a regular 9 to 5. I lived on a couch for a year just to not get a regular 9 to 5 and to pursue stand-up comedy, which it was an incredibly childish, selfish decision, and I could have been building a family in that time. So, yeah, there were sacrifices, but I feel weird for my whole life. So it didn't really bother me. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. I hope that wasn't too convoluted. And great question. I really like that. Here's my next question. Hey, Dan, you're the bestest. Are you kidding me? You're going to start your question in such a wonderful way? Thank you. Here's my question. At what age is the explanation we're young and figuring out careers no longer a valid excuse? Something's in the air. People are asking kind of similar questions. My partner, 26M, and I, 25F, have been dating for almost 6 years, good for you, and have lived together on and off due to our jobs taking us different places. My job is long-term, steady, and in one town. I have an opportunity to transfer to a different office in Arizona. My partner is a heavy equipment operator who has hopped around to different projects in the union and now took a permanent operating job in the town we grew up in 1 hour away. Heavy equipment operator. He's a heavy equipment operator going from town to town. He's in a giant land mover. He's going town to town. Let's look up heavy equipment. Let's look up what some examples of heavy equipment are. Because I think like backhoe, but I'm sure I'm sure there's like bigger heavy equipment vehicles than that. Oh no, yeah, excavators. We got backhoes, treaded tractors, dump trucks, and front-end loaders. He's going from town to town. Oh, my God, who's that? Who's that new guy just blew into town? Oh, that's Ronathan, the heavy equipment operator. Do you say his name's Jonathan? No, listen to me when I fucking talk to you. I said his name's Ronathan. He operates heavy equipment. And that's why he's wearing that gold vest and that fuzzy hat and those big boots and those parachute pants. He's a heavy equipment operator going town to town. Ronathan, please, we have 25 children stuck down a well. and they are stuck in a space that is the exact dimensions of a large backhoe to get in there. Could you help us? Sorry, ma'am. That's against OSHA standards. Heavy equipment operator. He's letting those children die. Sorry, I know people listening to the podcast didn't know I was a wonderful singer. Let's keep going with this question. When we're asked about our living situation, we usually brush it off as we're both young and focusing on getting our careers established, and we're hopefully going to buy a house somewhere. I'm okay with this living part in the temporary, but in long terms, I want to be living together as does. I don't want to move to his current town and commute, as my job can have long, physically demanding hours on the river. She's working on the river. He's operating equipment. They make love at night. You work on the river, and your boyfriend is a heavy equipment operator. You live inside of a Bruce Springsteen song. Do you understand how powerful your life is? Yeah, after I took the trailer in for the day, went down to the river to bed my woman. After a long day of scooping water from the river, that's what I assume you do, is you just scoop water from the river. After a long day of scooping water from the river, I go across the tracks an hour to bed my man. What a beautiful life you're living. I forgot what your question was. I got so wrapped up in the scenery of that. That's a romantic novel you're living. I can't really think of a way this works out with both of us living together, but we both really love each other and plan on staying together forever. So, at what point should I really press to figure out a long-term plan and putting in work ahead of our relationship? Well, first of all, you gotta just go with your feeling on that one of how important it is to live together. But I will say this, especially nowadays, building a life together with another person is so fucking hard. And it's not your faults. It's the fault of the fact that it's so much harder to buy property. Now, you'll see people post all the time like, oh, well, I'm 20 and I bought my first house. Oh, I'm 16. I bought my first house. I'm 3 years old. I just bought my first house. It has a changing station that I use where I change myself on it, but it has its own changing station. And these things are meant to make you feel bad. I will say this. I've never felt that way. I've never felt beholden to other people's timelines, which you kind of can't anymore. The world is moving so fast, and it's fucking you so much harder. It is objectively harder to buy property these days. It is objectively harder to make it the profits of heads of company and super rich people have gone way up. The wages of people like you, working class people, have remained basically stagnant, gone up a little bit, but not to the rate that it needs to cover things like inflation. This is Dan's economy corner, okay? I'm sitting here. You can't see if you're listening to this. I'm wearing a monocle right now. I'm smoking out of one of those bubble pipes, and I'm making big, broad statements about the state of the economy. And I say it like that. I say the economy. But the economy right now puts a lot of strains on relationships like this, like you guys. And I don't think that should influence your decision-making to a huge degree. But I think you do need to take into consideration it takes longer for people to figure stuff out now. And you shouldn't feel bad about that, okay? It's just like a logistical thing. And if you really do love this person and the distance is bad, that's the great thing about really being in love, is you start from the starting point of, well, we're going to be together. So let's figure this out. So you've covered the hardest part. You really. And some people are going to disagree and call that a romantic notion. I think objectively, the hardest part is to grow and sustain love, right? Because especially for 6 years, like that's the challenging part, and then the other stuff around that just makes that obviously more challenging. But just know you have the hard part covered. If you were writing me a message like, I just don't know. I don't know if I have feelings for my boyfriend. I'm in and out. Like I'm constantly thinking about stepping out and da 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 da. That's honestly kind of a bigger problem. But we have a logistical issue here, which can be cured over time by where you guys end up. By random circumstance, as long as you two are making your way together on a long enough timeline, it's going to meet up. But I don't think you need to maybe, like, I think you make your final stand when you really do feel fed up and you've had enough calm conversations about it. But just make sure you're voicing your desire to, like, live closer, I live far away from my girlfriend, not as far away as you. It's more like half an hour, 40 minutes, but it is, like, annoying, right? But we work within those frames, within those parameters, and it's like, if you're really in love with this person, patience is really important. So I say be patient, try to exercise patience, and when you get to the end of your patience, trust that your partner will be able to hear you out. Okay? Wow, I got real. That's Daniel Phil right there. That's Dr. Daniel Phil. Oh, this is our last question. It's about my pug statement that I made on a previous podcast. On the Patreon episode, which you could subscribe to if you want to hear the original. Okay, I love your podcast. Moving on to my thoughts on pugs, a cautionary tale. Whoa, hell yeah. My mom recently acquired a pug when she traded a lady her pop-up camper for one. Wait a minute. My mom recently acquired a pug when she traded her pop-up camper for one. That is the trashiest exchange. And I'm not saying trashy in a bad way. I mean in like a beautiful, pure American way. That should be on the flag. That should be the American flag. Our country is so free and so beautiful. You can trade a pug for a camper and a camper back for a pug. That is so cool. Your mom traded a pop-up camp. How was that exchange made? What is the pug to camper transfer rate? Does this rely on a high-quality pug? You know what I mean? Do you have to look at the jaws and be like, I don't know. I don't know if the MSRP on this pug. What's the Kelly Blue Book on this pug? What's the KBB on this wheezing creature next to me? You're beautiful. Oh, I love that. You traded a pug for a cat. Oh, my God. Oh, beautiful. Wow, pictures of him. We're all cute and everything, which I now call this a type of catfishing. Did you know that they're the dumbest dog on the planet? I had no idea. I thought it was Dalmatians because they're willing to run into burning buildings. But maybe that's mean to Dalmatians. I'm going to take a moment, and I've had to apologize for things said on this podcast in front of grand juries, in front of Congress, in front of the UN. So, it's no new thing for me to make an apology on the podcast, but I would like to apologize to Dalmatians. I would like to give a formal apology to Dalmatians. Whoever bred these creatures caused something inside their brain to tell them to eat their own excrement after they excrement. Man, that's tough. I learned this from a vet. The doctor told you this. That's rough when it's coming from the doctor's mouth. And firsthand, I was chilling back on the couch, dog babysitting at the time. First, everything was great. We played with his favorite toy. He was snorting down food, and I thought he was still napping. How could I have been so naive? This weird-looking creature would act like a normal dog. Here he comes, sneaking right up to my face after having his daily dookie snack. It's so funny. Looked like he just got done eating a chocolate bunny. Oh no. And you wouldn't do this because you're a good person, but after that happens, you're thinking in your brain, okay, can we switch this pug out for a different pug? You're thinking in your brain, if I go to the pound right now, can I find a similar pug and swap them out Indiana Jones style without my mom noticing? That's crazy. Oh, and it has those kind of void eyes that a pug can get. Oof. Kind of like one of those deep sea creatures. That's what a pug kind of looks like. I do also know they cannot swim. They sink like potatoes. Just food for thought, pun intended. Well, listen. It's not so much a question, but it paints a vivid picture, okay? And I don't like making bold statements on dog breeds, right? I think that should be left up to experts. I have no desire in making bold statements on dog breeds. But I will say, if that experience happened to me, just as a human being, I think I would be a little apprehensive around pugs as well. I'm just being honest there. But God bless you. You probably kept watching that dog. Man, what a rough day. And then you just have to, go to work. You can't tell anyone there what just happened to you. You're not good enough friends with them. There's like, hey, Brenda, how are you? Why do you have a 1,000-yard stare? Dog sitting. All right. Well, thank you. That is the episode. I had a lot of fun doing this one. Please subscribe to the YouTube. Please email me at danswerspodcast@gmail.com if you have a question. And also, I'm so sorry I'm doing all this promotion bullshit. I'm just trying to get some of the stuff off the ground. Thank you for listening. You don't have to do anything I'm saying. It's enough that you listen to this part of the podcast. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. You're the best. Have a good one.